How's everybody doing today? You know, I never get to ask, how you guys like two-a-days? I mean, that means you have to come out there and take attendance twice, right?
You never mention the word heat.
You don't what?
We never mention the word heat.
Well, you shouldn't. You know, basically, you know, we have a lot of guys that are doing a really good job in camp. You know, it's difficult circumstances. I think everybody gets a little tired probably after 3 or 4 practices, and then it becomes a matter of, you know, how much mental toughness, how much perseverance, how important is it to you to continue to push yourself, you know, so that you can continue to make progress. You know, what I usually say, and I said it today, is, you know, you either get better when you go out and practice or you get worse. You don't really stay the same. And, you know, people who go out there and try to cope with practice and endure practice, you know, they usually don't make a whole lot of improvement. And the guys that push themselves in practice are the guys that, you know, improve the most. And I think that every guy sort of has to make that kind of determination as to whether, you know, when do you call yourself out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, when do you ask yourself, am I really giving my best, or am I just kind of enduring what's going on here? I'm just kind of coping through, you know, what's happening here. And I think the more people that we can get right now, you know, to push themselves so that they can make the improvement that we need to make is going to be very important to us. And, you know, some of the older guys that have been through it before, you know, certainly I think do that a little more consistently than some of the younger guys. You know, practice was fantastic today, all right, but didn't have to deal with the same circumstances, didn't take the same kind of mental toughness to go out there and deal with, you know, the situation that we have to play in here quite a bit. And that's something that the players have to learn to do a better job of as well. You know, a couple things, I guess, you know, O.J. Smith came here, all right, with a shoulder that needs surgery. So we're going to probably go ahead and do that. And if we do that, he'll be out for the year. Leon Brown is making progress with his foot, but is still probably, he's actually doing some straight line running as a part of his rehab, but is still probably a week away from, you know, really being able to play, sort of do things as a football player. Ashawn Robinson has a sprained knee. It's not surgical, and it's probably going to take a few days before we get him back out there, maybe as, you know, much as a week or so. You know, we're saying he's kind of, you know, day to day, but we're pretty, you know, going to be pretty cautious with, you know, this kind of thing, especially at his position, right, because it's not easy to function, you know, as an inside player, you know, if you have a sprained knee. So we're going to be pretty cautious with him. All right, Brandon Ivory and Jaron Reed, you know, both were allowed to return to practice today. They both did the things that they were supposed to do relative to their suspension. They have to go through a 5-day acclimation period, you know, just like all the other players did. So, you know, 2 days in helmets, 2 days in shoulder pads, and then, you know, they'll be ready to go with everybody else. You know, I'm sure there'll be questions about the scrimmage and, you know, what we want to get out of the scrimmage. And, you know, really this first scrimmage is really to evaluate players, all right, to see if we can get them in the right positions. And, you know, I always talk about this is when the coaches aren't in the huddle anymore, when the coaches aren't making the calls, when you got to go out there and make the adjustments on your own, whether they're blocking assignments or coverage adjustments or whatever it might be, you know, which guys can, you know, sort of function and execute in that situation. All right, so it's just another step of how close are you to being ready to play. And then, you know, sort of evaluate guys as football players and not really worry about so much trying to make it a exhibition game. All right, so, I mean, we'll obviously scrimmage and practice some situations and do some move the field stuff, but I think the real goal and purpose is to say, okay, here's the football players, here's the guys that can go out there to function, here's the guys that can help us. Let's make sure we're coaching the right guys. So, any questions?
Just outside of the acclimation period, what kind of challenges do guys like Jaron and Brandon face just missing a week of practice at this stage? And then who on the defensive line is maybe kind of taking advantage of these opportunities with so many players?
Well, you know, we thought that the defensive line was an area where we had pretty good depth going in with the guys that we recruited. But, you know, it's provided an opportunity to create more reps for some of the younger players. You know, but, you know, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jonathan Reed, you know, Jonathan Allen, I'm sorry, Petway, you know, those guys have, you know, gotten a ton of reps. It's allowed, you know, Josh Frazier to get a ton of reps, who's just a freshman, as an inside player. Lake, you know, Curvin, a lot of guys. So, you know, we obviously need to get some of these bigger guys back so that we can, you know, be a little more solid inside. But I always think it's good that, you know, young players get a lot of reps. Now, you know, any player who misses a part of camp obviously has a lot of catching up to do in terms of, you know, conditioning level and being able to get back into playing football. I think there's enough time left, you know, that these guys are at least going to get a week of camp next week in pads, as the rest of the team does, you know, before we get into school and, you know, practicing one-a-days and not really being in camp. So, you know, each guy is going to be a little different, but they're big guys, so conditioning is really important to them. And, you know, the way we have to play now, they have to be in better condition to be able to play, because you see so many no-huddle fastball teams that I think the big guys get affected by that quite a bit, especially when they get tired.
You guys in the SEC in general have seen recently some freshman running backs come in and have some success right away. What do you think it is about that position that's conducive to success early on in somebody's career?
Well, I always say that the two positions that I feel like a guy could play at more quickly than others is probably running back and receiver. I mean, I think if you're an instinctive player and you have the skill set, there's not a whole lot to learn. And those are the two positions that probably, yeah, technique's important, running the plays right are important, but, you know, no coach teaches you how to make a guy miss. You know, no coach teaches you how to be able to explode through a hole and outrun everybody. No coach really teaches you to run past the corner because you're faster than they are. All right. So technically, I think there's probably less that those positions have to learn. So I think they're more apt to being able to play earlier, especially if they're skilled and talented guys.
Coach, in watching the receivers, everybody talks about Amari, but who are some of the other guys who have performed well? And is there anybody from a maturity standpoint that can kind of step in for what Norwood gave you last year?
Well, you know, I really think that, you know, DeAndre White is really a good player and a guy that's been a good player for us, and for whatever reasons, you know, hurt a little bit here, had a bad toe most of the year last year, was doing really well, got an ACL the year before. You know, Christian Jones has been a really good, productive player for us as a receiver and as a return man. But, you know, Robert Foster, Chris Black, Stewart, those three guys have really, they're all young players, have really had, good camps. Now, I think that based on having a guy like O.J. Howard, having a guy like Kenyon Drake, all right, when you put those guys in certain spots, those guys are really mismatched kind of players. So, you take the players that you have, the receivers that we talked about, some of those mismatched guys, and, maybe you have different kinds of weapons, than what you had the year before. But I think we have, plenty of receivers who are capable of making plays. And, our Darius Stewart, probably is the one guy that is really showing a whole lot of improvement from a year ago.
We know how much you enjoy your visits with the media. And in that regard, with the SEC network approaching, will there be any other extra obligations for you media-wise or requests for access that will come with the network?
Well, I'm sure that the SEC network itself, is going to have to, do a lot with each and every team in our league, to get, content for, what they want to do to try to promote, football, our league, our team. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's great exposure. I think a lot of people are really interested in it. I think there's a lot of people in this part of the country and all over the country that are really interested in the SEC. And I think that there will be some obligations from a network standpoint that I would say that every coach in the league, sort of welcomes relative to what it can do for our league and the exposure that it can, give your particular school and your program.
Two questions. First, I wondered if you could give an idea of what it's like evaluating a kicking competition. Is it as simple as makes and misses? Do you factor more for scrimmages? When you're evaluating kickers, is it as simple as we think, or is there a lot to that?
Well, yeah, makes and misses, have a lot to do with it. But how about operation time? That's something that you guys would not take into consideration. So you could be a really good punter, but if you're so slow we can never get off the punt, what benefit is it? So statistically, you would have better average, but functionally in a game, it would be difficult for us to execute what we need to execute. So that's important. Guys that have enough knowledge and experience to be able to, let's just say you direction kick, and a guy can't direction kick. So, but a guy that averages 42 yards can direction kick, but the guy that averages 44 can't. We may have a better net punt with the 42-yard guy. Same thing with kickoff. You want to kick to a certain guy or away from a certain guy or a certain part of the field so you can adjust your coverage lanes to try to squeeze that part of the field off. If a guy can't direction kick, he might be able to kick it a little further than the other guy, but if he can't kick a touchback every time, he could actually hurt, your ability to kick off. And field goal kicking to me is confidence and accuracy, and you got to have the operation time that you're not going to be susceptible to getting a lot of kicks blocked. But other than that, I would say that those two factors are probably the most critical ones.
The second part of that, how is Adam Griffith doing, and are there any walk-ons that are competing with him?
He's doing really good. I think he missed his first field goal, last night of the whole camp. All right, so, as long as he doesn't have the whole world evaluating every kick that he misses, and the guy has to, read the internet and, go see the psychiatrist because he's getting criticized for every kick that he misses, I think he got a chance, a really good chance. And if he doesn't make the kick, then we have to overcome whatever we have to do as a team so that it really doesn't matter. It's not all about that. I mean, we want to support him. We want to help him. We want him to do well. He wants to do well. He's working hard, and we're encouraged by the progress that he's made.
Ask about Reggie Ragland, just how much has he improved over his years here, and where does he stand right now?
Well, Reggie's a good player for us. He's really had a good camp, had a good spring, very athletic, explosive guy that has really good size, kind of inside backer that we like. And, you know, his knowledge and experience has helped his consistency and performance. And, you know, I think Reggie could be a really good player for us this year.
I want to ask about Trey Dupree's. How's he doing, and how much will he be able to do in the scrimmage on Saturday?
Well, I don't know if he'll be able to scrimmage, and even if he can, I don't know if we will scrimmage him. But he's doing a little more each day. He's certainly not 100% in terms of his movement. I think he can run straight ahead okay. He has a difficult time cutting, which the kind of injury that he had, that's usually the issue. But he is making progress. We are encouraged, you know, and he's had a really good attitude about doing what he needs to do so that, you know, he can get back to full speed and, you know, make a contribution to the team, you know, at his position as well as in terms of leadership and affecting other people. All right, thank you.